Greetings, everyone, and welcome to my channel, All That Is. I'm so pleased to welcome my guests on this auspicious day of the spring equinox. I'd like to welcome Shekinah Ma and Shekinah Grace to this forum. So welcome to the two of you to this Equinox Roundtable, where we're talking about our Canadian Gridwork Mission that's coming up on March 30th. I know that Shekinah Ma wants to do a ceremony before we go live, so I'm going to let her go ahead and do that.
Greetings, everyone, and blessings. Thank you for tuning in. As Indigo Angel says, welcome into this dimension. The love bowl, the medicine pot. We are bringing in so much good medicine today on this Astara, on the spring equinox day of equal day and equal night, and breathing in and just really aligning to that union. In this beautiful turtle island, in this beautiful Mother Earth, we acknowledge the bowl of the pipe is the feminine, and the shaft or the stem of the pipe is the masculine. And we see that on this day, the pipe is set, the pipe is put together and made whole, the union of masculine and feminine energies. And so with that, we just bring in this circle of abundance and healing and love and light, starting in the east, in the place of the rising sun, in the place of the eagle, in the place of the Womble, sacred vision, being able to see the forest from the trees. And we acknowledged all the winged ones in this place of east, all those that fly and take to the air, and even in this spring tide, as east represents the spring. And so on this day, we initiate the east, the place of the rising sun, the place of a new earth, a new beginning, and a new day. And then we come into the south and we invite and bring in the medicine of the south and the place of the peaking sun, the place where we come into the summer lands and the place of passion and fire and purpose. And we see that this beautiful Pachamama, this Mother Earth, is being purified now, is being cleansed and being cleared of all that which is corruptive. And we just acknowledge the dragons and the dragon lines of the ley lines of the earth as the grid of the earth in the south. And we extend through that grid all the healing prayers and protection prayers upon this earth to correct all that which has been wronged. And then we come into the west, into the place of water. And here we say, Mini Wachoni, water is life. And in the west, we see the beautiful finned ones. We see all the merfolk. We see the whales and the dolphins and the seals and the fish and all those who live in the water, both salt and pure fresh water. And so we acknowledge the west as the setting sun, and we acknowledge the setting sun that is coming down, bringing down the old age, the old paradigm, and the old ways that have corrupted and colonized our beautiful earth and broken this sacred hoop. And so we bring this coming down now and cast it into the waters to be reborn. Now standing in the north, we welcome in the north, we welcome in our ancestors, we welcome in our spirit guides, and we welcome in the earth element, into this place of the great white buffalo woman, into this place of the crystals and the rocks and the stones, the powers of the earth. And we welcome in that great white north, that place of snow and winter and the dark of night. And so that we see a whole circle is cast, that the whole medicine wheel is activated and enlivened, with the center of this wheel being the center of our hearts and the center and the heart of Mother Earth herself, as she is aligned to the sun, as she is aligned to the Christos, as she is aligned to the Sky Father, Mother Earth, and Father Sky, joined together in this eclipse portal. And we bring in through this eclipse and this equinox and these great full moon now to new moon in Aries timeline, we bring in so much good medicine into this new earth, this Nova Gaia, this place of new beginnings, and the place where we close the chapter and edit the book of life from the past now into the future, right here, right now, in this present moment. Aho, mitaka yasin.
Aho. Mm.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful. Very appropriate. As we started, I was telling you folks about the transmission I received from a white buffalo woman. Do you think it's appropriate to read it now or later?
Let's do it.
Do it? Okay. Greetings. I am known to many as White Buffalo Woman, Calf Woman, and many other names. I come to you today as a being that protects the lands of my people, the original people, who protect the earth and live in harmony with the earth. These beings have gone through much trauma and suffering for their noble acts of protecting the earth and abiding by their own traditions. They have been wiped off your plane of existence for the most part as a result of greed and hatred. There has been much trauma brought upon their tribes of all men, women, and children. They have suffered tremendously at the hands of the oppressors, and their population of people have much to heal from, not only physically, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, and at a soul level. I work tirelessly from my perspective to heal as many souls as I can. However, it is groups like yours that are helping the many open their eyes, whether from the oppressor's or the victim's perspective, to realize that what you have been taught as your history or your way of life is inaccurate. There is a much deeper story, and there is a much greater harm being done to you on a soul level. So my prayer to you is that each of you awaken to your heart's destiny and leave aside all that you have been taught, but tune into your soul's calling and heal from that perspective. There is much work to be done on an individual and collective level, and so small steps towards that goal will not only heal your heart, but it will heal the collective energy that has been harmed on many levels due to past aggression from the many that had agendas that were not in alignment with your true soul's purpose. Heal thyself as you heal others. This is my message. Much blessings.
Aho. Beautiful.
Yeah, so it's great to have the blessings of these higher dimensional beings, hey, when we come together in these not only just ceremonies, but in the healing of the land. And I think this is where we need to put our focus in terms of just getting into our Gridwork mission, which we've got scheduled for, I guess, the 30th of March. And just going into that, before we dive into our discussion, I just wanted to sort of bring some context to what it is we are doing, just to give our listeners a bit of background. So this all sort of started when I had a conversation with Shekina Grace, and we had, I think, more than one conversation, and we emailed back and forth as well about, just the lands in Canada and how we were both feeling at the time, and, that healing was needed in terms of, just healing these lands, because every time we went on these grid missions, it was mostly focused on the US, and we were feeling that need to have the lands of Canada healed as well. And so right after that, I went off on this global Gridwork and new prophecy course that Indigo Angel was offering. And so during that course, I guess the homework was to submit our own Gridwork mission proposal. And so based on my conversation with Shekina Grace, I decided to focus on Canada. And so what we are seeing right now is the fruition of that proposal that's coming up on the 30th of March. So at this point, I just wanted to give a shout out to Indigo Angel, who is, leading us on this mission. She's truly an earth guardian and an inspiring person that, heads all of these missions to powerfully bring about healing, not only to the many that she serves, but also to the lands on her mission. So Unfortunately, she couldn't be with us today, but I just wanted to give a shout out to her and the rest of our Gridwork crew from the US. So what we're essentially doing, I think, is breaking that old pattern and, bringing forward that birthing, if you will, of the new earth prophecies. And so we as light workers or guardians are coming at this from a higher perspective, I feel, to heal the land energetically, not only on a physical level, but also galactically. And that's where, I sort of feel so strongly, because I have my guides and, the galactic team, if you will, guiding me through this process and giving me little nudges as to which direction I need to go. And so when we do this work as grid workers or starseeds or healers, we unfortunately come into contact with, the true history, if you will, of the lands, or the true energies of Mother Earth, right? That have been hidden and sort of dormant for a while. And so as we come up with these energies, we unfortunately come up to the aggression, shall we say, of the establishment or the government or the oppressors, right, that have rendered this land and its people to such a state of being, shall we say, that is not in alignment with these higher energies. And so as we begin our work on slowly bringing all of these energies into alignment, it is, missions like these that we set out to correct course, if you will, of, what was happening in the past. And so I felt that it was important for us to sort of just lay the groundwork, as you have, Shakina Ma, with prayer and with that higher intention, if you will, of where we were coming from. We're not in any way politicians or, coming from that perspective, if you will, right? We are here as healers, we're here as guardians of the land, and we're coming at this from a very intuitive sort of perspective. And so today we are anchoring, if you will, the energy in Canada as we lead up to this mission, bringing in more insights and more energy to this Gridwork mission. So just to give our listeners an idea of where we're going to be working, we're sort of broadly working on the triangle, if you will, that came up through the ley lines from Bermuda Triangle to Mount Shasta to the area that is located in Calgary, roughly around that area. And the New Earth prophecies that are going to be arising, if you will, from the energies of Lake O'Hara in Golden, BC. And so today we'll be talking about a few things as we progress through this mission, if you will. And so, yeah, I thought it was interesting that we brought this forward on the equinox. So go ahead, if you ladies have to add something to what I've just said.
I'd like to just put some medicine towards the great white buffalo calf woman, because when she first came, she came to a time when there was lots of conflict, and it was a sparse ability to hunt. In a lot of indigenous culture, when you are living out of balance, when you're living in a way that is not respecting the spirit of the earth or the spirit of the plants, they say you must ask permission to take from the plants. You must live in a way where you don't take more than what you need. There's a balance, like the Tao, like all the cultures, religions, mostly around this Mother Earth, in all these various indigenous ways, always kind of come back to this living in balance and living in a good way, in right relation. And so when there was a time, timelessness, she had to calm great white buffalo calf woman, because again, people had lost their way. And when she appeared, it was to 3 hunters. And the first hunter seen her, and she's beautiful, she's gorgeous goddess, and has immediate lust for this woman. And then that man turned to ash. The second one could see her as a powerful woman and then wanted to, take her. you want to take the shiny toy, right? Very colonizer energy to take, without respect. And so she again turned him to ash. The third of the hunters was a good man, had seen her with no lust and no desire to take and own and seize property. So she taught him how to make the pipe and then taught him how to pray, which then he brought this back to the people and taught the people how to get back into right relation. So I'd just like to say that as we are now, time is a fractal spiral, if you will. And so, we have these initial sensitizing events, traumas, wars, conflicts. The Vikings came to Canada before the French and before the English. So Vikings come to Canada, and then the French come to Canada, and the English are showing up in Canada, and Dutch people are showing, and so people are coming, they're wanting to take. So we've now, all this time later, obviously are in such conflict and in crisis even. And so now we have this repeat of this return of the great white buffalo, as many indigenous people have observed the white buffalo being born again and again. And so we're called back to the prophecies of the Hopi and the Dene and into, all the way through the Cherokee, all the way, I believe, back into the beginning of time, in pre-Atlantis, pre-Lemuria. So I believe this was always a plan. But here we are getting right in right relation once again. And I feel that while there are those in the dark brotherhoods of the fallen so-called elite, they're really like the fallen angels. They're really like the fallen, draconians or reptilians, call them what you like, that seek to claim and lust after like those hunters did. And so we as women are showing up now as daughters of, say, White Buffalo Calf Woman, as daughters, say, of Sky Woman who founded Turtle Island, the America. And so we see that we're coming in here to bring back the medicine and to bring back the teachings and to restore and reclaim. And so this is what I feel, we're laying down this foundation to this grid work. We're here to lay down the right protocols before you do the ceremony so that you can really scrub and clean and clear and prepare and make like our intentions set like a seed into the soil, which is what's being done today. People are setting their seeds into soil as an ancient ritual to bring in, the future crops and our fertility and our success for this next solar cycle. So yeah, I really see us as being the daughters of this great medicine woman who have now shown up in this time to bring back and, bring reclamation to our sacred earth. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Yeah, I totally align with that. I was just reading up on my version of the Buffalo Calf Woman from the Sophia Code. I don't know if you guys have read this. But in that one, there's two hunters. So it's a slight variation from your story, but the essence of it is the very same. So yeah, I'm grateful for you saying that.
Yeah, that comes more from the actual people of the Lakota Sioux.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always good to source our stories from the
Yeah.
actual people who bring these stories, because
Yeah.
the tradition is to honor the people who the stories belong to.
Absolutely. No, I thank you for saying that. Shakina Grace?
Yeah, I love that story was shared for everyone watching, and just also to plant that seed of awareness that that's what we're doing is like reclaiming and restoring the divine union codes. So that sacred masculine and sacred feminine union within and within our relation, like in our relationships, and healing any war consciousness or distortions in the relation between man and woman, healing that up within ourselves, and then really making the concerted conscious effort to examine our relations, examine our relationship with one another. And yeah, I feel like it's a very worthy and very righteous and very essential and urgent focus is to meditate on what does this divine union mean? What does the divine union mean within and without? And so that's what I initially feel if I were to sum up the mission for the 30th. That's what initially came through when you first shared what we would be focusing on, was that code. And it feels so relevant to what's taking place between the US and Canada right now, because even though on the dramatic world kind of stage, there's all kinds of things we cannot agree with in the like how things are going about. But I think from that higher perspective, there is this unity consciousness. Some of those codes are coming through to whether it's conscious in someone like Donald Trump or not. It feels in alignment with Turtle Island and that prophecy. So what I saw in my meditation today was that the lower half of Turtle Island and the US into Mexico was more of a sacred masculine energy, and then Canada is more of a sacred feminine energy. And that, especially because the US, as far as I understand, because I'm not really in that world of politics and following everything, but their military and US has very much been like a protector of Canada, let's say. And so they were holding that sacred masculine role for Canada for a very long time. So that just came through as like a code, and when I think of Canada, it's like there is a quietness, or like a gentleness or a softness, to the people, as well as the lands. I think we're not as populated, I believe. So there's more of that sacred feminine I feel coming through. I find it interesting that Shekinah Ma and myself have both taken on this name of the sacred feminine or divine feminine. And that's not a coincidence to me that that's coming in as we're having these discussions between Canada and the US. And so I feel like there's even union codes there that I saw between the sacred masculine and the sacred feminine, needing to be united, through consciousness on some level. Now, what that looks like on the borders, I don't know, but in my body, because I have always felt that the body and the earth are one, they're exactly the same. And so when I meditate, I feel my body as the entire landmass or continent. And it's like a fragmented chakra system. If we have these really strict restrictions and borders and guidelines and rules of the life force to be able to flow up and down the entire landmass, which again we say we are earth and body are one and the same. So from that perspective, I feel like there should be unity here. There should be a unification of these two Americas. So I just thought I'd share that piece at this time. And then later, maybe if we have time, I could go into all the chakras and what I kind of witnessed from that point. But I like the divine union focus, and it feels really beautiful. And yeah, so thanks.
Thank you for sharing that. No, I think that's coming in very powerfully for me as well. I don't know if you guys tuned into the UK Gridwork Mission that we did, but the divine masculine energies of King Arthur and again the divine feminine of Queen Guinevere came in as that cosmic Christos union energy, if you will. So that Christed energy was sort of birthed in that field of I guess the UK with that Arthurian sort of field, if you will. So that came in very powerfully during that time, and I was getting downloads from I did like a transmission directly from King Arthur, and I also got a transmission from Yeshua and Mary Magdalene during that time. And so it anchored, I would say, very powerfully at that time. And so I have a feeling that's that same energy that's sort of permeating through the fields and bringing them, bringing that energy to these areas as well. And so I have a feeling that's what's happening here.
Yeah.
What do you guys feel about the lands of Canada, if you will, because we're going through that struggle in terms of just trying to figure out who Canada belongs to, and there's that whole strife, if you will, right, between the Indigenous people and, as you said, Shakina Ma, in the beginning, all these invader forces come and go, and they sort of eventually they are kicked off the land, right, in a most organic, authentic manner, right, if you will.
Mm.
um, I suppose we are going through that cycle right now, right? So I'm just wondering if you guys have any sort of feedback as to how and how we sort of align those energies, because we're getting all these facts, if you will, right, from documentaries like the Canada, the Illusion, and all of that stuff, that how the royal family is sort of deeply ingrained in these lands, right? So what do you guys feel about that whole perspective, if you will? Because I know that we're sort of coming at this from many perspectives, but this is sort of in a way our reality right now.
Canada seems to be, Kanata is really means settlement. So the name Canada comes from Kanata, which is settlement. And this is really, to me, the last settlement because, Canada hadn't been claimed by the monarchy till pretty much almost all the other countries had seemingly become claimed by the monarchy. And so it feels as though Canada is almost like the last in a line, a succession of places that had been sought to be claimed. We're a very young country here. So it feels as though this is like the infant of, this whole claim to territory of the earth. And it feels as though it's kind of the last conquest. And that initiates the final plan, if you will, for the World Economic Forum, which is really just like the 13 bloodlines that rule the earth kind of thing. So, we have this like fulfillment of their agenda to conquer and take over Earth and then be able to create that one world government,
Mm-hmm.
that one, globalization plan to take Earth away
Yeah,
from the
yeah,
indigenous, from the organic, from the matrix, and then to conquer and create this artificial matrix.
yeah,
So this feels like the last like leg of that agenda. And as we come into this last leg now, there's been this uprising as a last revolt, but it's like such a powerful revolt that it's kind of like the straw that break the camel back, and the cards all come tumbling down. And so I see, the darkness as a force to drive, in like the Bhagavad Gita, they speak of churning the sea of milk, and you got the angels and you got the demons, and they're just like tug of warring. I am a colonizer, I'm indigenous, and it's like this
yeah,
tug of war game.
yeah,
And so, but the force of the tug of war is creating the ghee. It's clarifying the butter. It's
yeah,
creating, under great pressure, diamonds formed. So while we have this driving, dark, colonizing, parasitic, evil force, if you will, which evil is just LIVE spelled backwards. So evils live, the
yeah,
life forces that are backwards then inverted. So we just flipping it. But this is causing us to kind of evolve into our now, we've hit the bottom of the bucket, and now we're coming back up from that fall of Eden, back now ascending into the rising of this new earth.
Yeah.
So as much as we get caught up in the struggle, and we get caught up in, they want us to, because that's how they harvest all this loosh of
Yeah.
all this fear and all this conflict, and you go crazy. It's Wendigo, like in the indigenous culture they call it either Wetiko or Wendigo. So it's the original spirit or mind or psychic virus that seeks to, enslave your mind and your bodies and all of that which you are,
Yeah.
and turn you into a dark demonic, it's like in the Lord of the Rings, when they take the elves and then they torture them and they become the orcs. So
Yeah.
it's like we're being tortured so that we'll fall into our devil like beings.
Yeah.
And it's a great test. It's a spiritual battle.
Yeah.
It's a spiritual
Yeah.
test. But
Yeah.
I think that this is now we're like
Yeah.
combustion. It's
We're
like
breaking
spiritual
through. Yeah.
power, like Ganesh, like Shiva, like all the great beings that are just like, you shall not pass. And
Yeah.
so, I feel like it's a real celebrational time, because as when you hear the snake, as the snake sheds its skin, it's like we're shedding off all that patriarchal war timeline of control and enslavement and rape and that whole just fallen nature. So I feel like this is a celebration, as the Hopi prophecy says, this is a
Yeah.
good time. This can
Yeah.
be a good time. So I just
Well,
like
everywhere you're hearing
yeah.
about this year being the year that, transformation happens, right? So I'm completely in alignment with what you're saying. Yeah, this year is when everything happens. I like that vision that you just gave me of us coming through from the waters and arising at this time. Yeah, that's totally in alignment with what I'm seeing as well. So, yeah, it's very powerful when you think of it that way, right? What do you think, Shakina Grace?
Yeah, I love it. I love everything that's been shared. When Shakina Ma was talking about sort of the spirit possession that can take place, with all the duality and the fighting, and it's something that in my meditation earlier was, you know, the frequency fencing that I think is going to be a part of our Gridwork mission, just to lift, those 5G frequency nets, and that kind of mind control or mind hive, like, just moving through the motions of life. Energy, I feel really excited about focusing in on that and doing some healing work around that. I've identified that Calgary is like a pineal cage that kind of links up into the islands. I forget what they're called. They're by Greenland there, that I'm at the top, which feels to me like the brain center of Turtle Island. And I saw like the saddle dome kind of being like a dish, like a satellite dish that links up into there. And so, that false queen bee hive matrix kind of energy coming through, and Calgary being one of those main, if you want to call, looshing centers. It's one of the largest cities in Canada, and then how that feeds into the UK. And now I don't know much about the stargates and the dimensions and stuff, but I've heard you guys talk about that being linked into like the 11th something.
Yeah, it's the
So
11th Stargate. Yeah.
yeah, so that feels really like a great focus, just in terms of remedy or solution, and talking about that, even making people aware that that's a possibility, to be kind of caught up in that thinking or in that looping. And anytime we drop into negativity or start having thoughts that don't feel in alignment with who we know we are as sons and daughters of the Most High God, mother, or sons and daughters of Mother Earth, like our aliveness and our passion and our creativity and our inspiration and enthusiasm for life, like anything that doesn't align with that and those thought forms coming in, just know that you're being hijacked, by that matrix. And It's for me that really helps, because as soon as I start to have any of those thoughts, I just know that it's not me. It's like entity, and frequency, like discordant frequency, and I just have a real warrior spirit around that, and I'm really diligent and disciplined with my mind. And I think that's one good way to free yourself from the matrix and from these spirit possessions, and really get in alignment with your inner spirit and your inner Holy Spirit, and your direct connection to Mother, Father, God, Source, Prime Creator, and more connected and in communion with Mother Earth and the nature spirits. And I think that's ultimately on an individual level how we can transcend that. But to bring, more of that awareness as I guess, a landmass or two turtle island, and working the grids, I would say that would be an important part of the mission.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely. I agree with that.
I
And I
guess like
think, sorry, go ahead, Shakina.
it's just like Danielle Smith is the premier of Alberta now, okay? And so she just had Mark Carney, who's now our unelected prime minister, show up into Alberta where they had a meeting.
Oh,
And I just love that this woman took it upon herself to just put this man in his place. And so again, we see this strong feminine force
yeah,
who is just like, actually, no. Okay, so I just want to enhance that vibration and like hold it up into this place of like, let's keep feeding this wolf rather
yeah,
than the wolf that haunts and hunts. Let's feed the wolf
yeah,
that protects and provides,
yeah.
because that's a positive right there in that portal you speak of Calgary.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because we talked about this last week, I guess, in our roundtable on Indy's channel as well, and all the, I guess, the negative energy that Mark Carney is bringing in, right? Like, it's more like looking at a corpse, really, right? And that's where you brought in that energy of the corpsoration, right, Shakina Ma?
Mhm.
Which is essentially what they're presenting to us, all of this energy of, the corporate world, the corporations, the shell corporations, and, going into that whole the World Economic Forum attitude and the governance that entails. I also found out that Klaus Schwab was inducted, if you will, as the bishop, the universal bishop within the church system, if you will, or the church establishment. So to me, that's sort of them disintegrating from the internal um, setting, if you will, that's made up of their establishment. Go ahead.
That's the black magic satanic like death cult. So it's
Yeah,
just important to be able to say, oh, I see that is the bishop of the matrix.
yeah, yeah.
It's not necessarily meaning anything else.
No. I'm
Yeah.
just bringing that forward just so,
Yeah.
people understand where this is all coming from and how they sort of integrate themselves into all of these energies, right? So it's all that, behind the scenes, how these networks connect, right? And how Mark Carney is connected to the World Economic Forum. He's connected to the United Nations. He's connected to the US. He's connected to all of these things. And another thing that recently happened was his interview with Canadian mainstream media, where he refused to disclose any of his assets.
Mhm.
So that just tells you he's hiding something, right? So, and I think Shakina Grace, one of you sent me that video where, he's talking about, or they talked about him having shell companies in the Bermuda and Barbados and all of these, offshore locations, really.
Mhm.
So it's all very sketchy. And even the way he came into power, if you will, through the back door,
Mhm.
it's just unbelievable how these things are happening, right? And it's leaving the Canadians without any way of really fighting back.
What I love about this is the contrast to the Christ consciousness and the age of transparency. And people are turned on to resonance and frequency, like reading the truth through resonance and frequency. And
Yeah,
so I just don't see much getting away with, him getting away with much of this, because of how obvious the lack of transparency is. And so I think it's like, it's great that that's so obvious, you
Yeah.
know, for the people to
Well,
see.
I was actually surprised that it came up on mainstream media. So it's, that to me tells you that, they are seeing through the veil as well, which is a good thing, because mainstream media is the one that's sort of keeping
That's
many people in the dark,
right. Yeah.
because people tune into the news every day, really. And so they're the ones that are bringing that message, if you will, but in a way they're bringing in that mind control to the people, right? So it's good that they are also now learning to speak the truth, even if it's a little drip, if it's a drip here and a drip there, that's good enough, right? For us to, to create that crack in the dam, if you will, that'll bring those floodgates open and, bring that full disclosure, if you will. But I'm so glad that many Canadians are, seeing the light. I'm seeing it more and more on channels like X, where, more and more Canadians are coming forward and, their channels are being blown up with the truth. And so I'm really happy to see that happening.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Well,
just going back to what you said, Shakina Grace, in terms of seeing the healing that was happening, and where we need to focus our energies. Just going back to our conversation where you brought up the toxins in the land, and I guess we talked a little bit about the 5G and the chemtrails and all of that. I just wanted to bring that into the forefront of our conversation today, and just sort of bring some light to what's really happening from your focus, from your perspective, in terms of Saskatchewan, perhaps from Shakina Ma as well, if she's heard of this. I know from my perspective, and living in Grand Prairie, Alberta, for about 2 years, I saw this firsthand as well, because, there were young kids coming in all the way from Eastern Canada to work in the oil fields, and they're exposed to all of this money and wealth, and they don't really know how to deal with it, so they're exposed straight away to go and drink and take drugs, and ended up with domestic violence and things like that. And I worked for the RCMP, so I was like, on the front lines actually seeing all of these things happen, right? So we would see all of these things coming through the door, like, men treating women badly, drugs, alcohol, that sort of thing. So I'm just wondering if that, I know we'll be talking about this as a healing modality, and, bringing all of this into those reversal codes, if you will, and bringing health back to these lands, but I just want to hear from your perspective and what you are seeing on the ground.
Yeah, I guess just growing up in southern Saskatchewan, my basic observations and direct, like, physical human experience was, I observe the elements. Again, I'm aware, I look at things energetically. And so in general, I feel like there's a lack of real, like, grounded root chakra energy happening specifically in southern Saskatchewan. Northern Saskatchewan has a different vibe, but the larger, more industrial farms where there's no biodiversity left in the landscape, there's no trees, it's just large grain farming. It just felt like the root chakra was just kind of just barely hanging on by a thread, and that was like a personal experience. So sometimes it's like I do feel like I'm kind of a representative of the collective via my personal experience, because I do feel the land, and the land talks to me so much. So, but I'll share that first and foremost. People may have a different opinion, but yeah, so it's just the fact that there's no trees. You drive through that region of the world too, and it just feels quite barren, and it's very cold and windy, like extremely windy and dry. The atmosphere is dry. So if you just look at those things, I mean, that shrivels up the root right there. If you're looking at it from a biological or human perspective, someone with a constricted or like deficient root chakra is going to suffer from those things, though that feeling of like lack of nourishment or dryness or um, embodiment and rootedness. So there was that, and then of course I never liked the chemicals. So you know, as below, so above, just as above, so below. And I feel like a lot of people complain about the chemtrails, but we're still chemtrailing the land. And so potentially that could be non-existent, I think, if we started to correct our behavior on the land. And so that's my perspective there. I think we need a call to, you know, this has been going on, and people have been like protesting the use of chemicals and glyphosate and Roundup and like GMO and desecrating crops and all that. There has been movements to fight against that for a while, but it's still here. And so I would call all farmers to, you know, throughout Canada, into Manitoba as well, and Alberta, and to seek out the pioneers who have been like really pioneering and been the ones to push forward and figure out how to return to organic farming and soil regeneration and all that, and seek those leaders to learn how to, you know, begin this restoration and correct this biological attack on the gut microbiome of probably the entire planet. Like, I don't, how far do the grains in Saskatchewan, or how far do they reach? How where are they distributed throughout the world? You know, they're a global source of grain, as far as I know. So, you know, I look at things from like as without, so within. You know, those principles, and it's like we have epidemic of gut issues and like root chakra or like intestinal problems. And so I think that's a huge, huge call that needs to, that shift has to take place within the next 1 to 2 years, like bridging from 209 or from 20, what are we? It's a 9-year to a 10-year. That's kind of how I look at the years. You know, what year are we in? I don't even know. 2025.
2025, yeah.
Yeah, to 2026. So I feel like we need some warrior farmers, you know, to really have the courage to make those changes, and encourage, you know, the next generation of the farmers, you know, the sons of the farmers farming there, to like support them, support the next generation to figure out some ways of beginning the process of returning to the organic, and creating more biodiversity there, planting trees, and maybe having smaller farms, um, and even dividing up large lands to become more like 2.5 to 5 acre plots, where young people who really want to farm, like create their own homestead or start to grow their own food, like to divide up some of those lands, to give people an opportunity to leave the cities and start growing their own food. So that's my vision, you know, for Saskatchewan. And I feel like in terms of like the entire, if we're looking at Turtle Island and the chakras as like a one body or a one mass, I mean, we're, you know, it's the solar plexus issues we need to deal with before we can enter fully into the Sacred Heart, you know. So I'll just leave it at that.
I love that. I love that. How do you think the tariffs feature into all of this? Like, do you see the farmers being, I know they're being impacted, but do you see a way out of it? Like, are they going to now just sell their crops more to a Canadian market? Is that how, do you see the solution happening there? Or are they going to be facing a tough situation?
Honestly, I don't know. I get that kind of gets more into the politics that I have trouble like articulating and being so coherent with sharing information on that regard. It's more, I just hope the farmers kind of wake up to stop using these chemicals that are so harmful,
Mm-hmm.
to the earth and to the us as a human family.
Okay, thank you. Shakina Ma, do you have something to say?
Well, I just see that with RFK, in, you know, Maha, make America healthy again, as if that won't affect Canada. And so I really do see, like, my husband, when I immigrated, I'm a permanent resident. I never wanted to take oath to the Queen, so I refused my citizenship opportunity. So I just stay American and live here as a permanent resident. And in this when I come here, I come to Alberta. My kid's father comes from, a huge cattle ranch. They're, organic farmers since Canada started in Alberta anyway. And, his family, a lot of them were really into stress-free cattle ranching. So they were moving into what's called the Western A. Price Foundation, which is all like, heritage, organic, lots of sauerkrauts, lots of lacto fermented foods. They had meetings, they had like chapters, so people all across, all the farmers from into Saskatchewan, I'm sure into Manitoba. I mean, it's like kind of a whole movement that the Western A. Price Foundation initiated. Sally Fallon is one of the people that wrote the book Nourishing Traditions, where I began learning all this stuff. And so, yeah, his family all started adopting the stress-free cattle ranching, which apparently makes the meat, instead of being so tough because it's stress induced from all the stress that cattle has to endure. And also buffalo, they had buffalo, and then they also all went organic. But the problem with organic is if you're a farmer, you have to go through so much, just hooba juba. It's really just a
Are you
joke.
talking about the regulations?
Yeah, you have to
Yeah.
go through so much regulation, paperwork, fines. They had to plant like some obnoxious amount of trees to buffer, like, the farm that's adjacent to their farm, and like the wind blowing the Monsanto seeds into, or even just the chemicals. So, yeah, it's like a lot of people are actually fighting back by creating a different template, a different model, a different practice. And I seen that as like, this was like probably 15, 20 years ago, and they all just started doing that. And then more and more people, of course, get the oil wells on their land, because they get like 10,000, at least that was back in the day, per pump on their land. So they just have it so like I was even told by my one friend that they glyphosate dried out the land so bad that now it just catches fire, like the burning bush phenomenon.
Oh,
Because
wow.
glyphosate dries out all the water in the land, and it makes the land like perfect for susceptibility to fire. Which is what we see here in BC. They spray glyphosate all over our mountains. They call it a pesticide, an invasive species control. But what it does is they make massive forest fires, and then they blame that on climate change, which is
Yeah.
an absolute joke. That's a horrendous lie. So it's just like this chess game of absolute angels and demons,
Yeah.
battling it out over the elements.
Yeah.
So I really like Harald Katzwelle. He's a German scientist. He says, we're stewards, that we are earth, my body, water, my blood, air, my breath, and fire, my spirit. So when we reclaim our ability to be true stewards, which is why I was attracted to grid working, because I did the fighting, I did the petitions, I did the protests, I've done the boots on the ground, trying to make change. Problem is like, we're working from that physical effect, in the form. Doesn't really do a whole lot. So you got to go straight to the causal, straight to the aether, to the essence before it turns into the form. And so from that place, you reawaken the callers, and we are callers. So we can call the rain, we can call, in the element of the fire, balance the fire, so there's like a shift going on, which is the powerlessness that we've been trained and conditioned to believe that we are. That time is over, and so now we're stepping back into the re-empowered and empowered self to say, well, I can actually heal the elements through my own being, and that is why I was created anyway, so I may as well have fun, get into it.
Yeah.
So that's where we're coming back now.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's so much in alignment, right? I see you shaking your head too, Shakina Grace.
I love it. I mean, I yeah, I've been saying, let's do our rain dances. Like, we have the ability to, like, absolutely work in co-creation and choreograph our life energies with all the diverse energies of the universe, you know, all the codes and all of the elements, and be co-creators, like in accordance with divine law and natural law, you know. And we have that power, we know, within us. And that's why I love grid work too, because I was often feeling so helpless, kind of like restricted in my ability to create any change, you know. And I've always cared so much about the land, but it was like, no, who will listen to me, you know, about this? So the grid work also felt like the solution. It was the empowerment to start to do what I was just seeing and visioning. Like, spirit was guiding me. Like, this is the medicine. You know, I saw that, like, the rose, copper, gold frequency being reinstalled into those southern Saskatchewan lands. And, you know, Shekina Ma started our behind the scenes, I think, conversation. I popped on when she was talking about the copper. And so that came up as like a solution or a remedy to begin the restoration of the soil, you know. And yeah, even like the water molecule, like working with the periodic table of elements. I mean, we can call in all of these things and, you know, create what we need to. And it's real. Like, the shifts happen in real time, you know. They're able, like, we're able to witness and feel that, like, in our own physiology. There's a biological shift that takes place when we do these gridwork missions too. At least for me, when I've done my own mini missions on my own, like remotely from here, I can feel the shifts take place in my own body. So yeah, we're tapping into who we really are, you know, through this work. And I think just like elevating and transcending the muck. And I think Shekina Ma worded it something along the lines of just like overlaying, like bringing in the thing that will literally just transmute that, like that. Like, we don't even have to question whether or not the shift has taken place, and we don't ever have to go back there. And I think that's like, we have to practice at doing that, like to be careful not to hold the past in the past, like not to hold that. You know, if we recognize something that needs corrected, to be careful not to later say this still needs correction, like to trust the correction has taken place, if that makes sense. So
Yeah,
not to
absolutely.
cancel, we don't want to cancel out with our oracular gifts and our word, you know, the word of God. We don't want to cancel out what we have done. You know, we need to have that clarity and confidence, you know, and that trust and that absolute, like, unshakable faith in who we are as sons and daughters of the Most High, you know, that's it is done, it is done, it is done.
So I think we're in a very good window, shall we say, of opportunity, right? We started this whole thing off, and this goes for the new I don't know if you want to call him the prime minister, but the fake prime minister, shall we say, came in on the lunar eclipse, and then we've got the lunar eclipse also happening just before. Is
So
it before or the day after? I think we're within that window, right? And then we've got, you know, this equinox, and we've got all of this energy within this window of time when we've decided to take this mission into fruition. So do you guys want to speak about that synchronicity that's happening? I know we had a lot of things that we came up with. I've written a few things. We've got the new moon in Aries, we've got the lunar eclipse, and then I think Shekina Ma or Shekina Grace, one of you mentioned the geometry of the day with the Merkaba and the icosahedron. So, you know, there's all of that water element that's coming in. So, yeah, maybe we can talk a little bit about all of these synchronicities and all of that that's coming in for the 30th of March.
I want to say one thing, the Venus and Mercury are both in retrograde right now, which is interesting. And as I was contemplating that, I was feeling like how, you know, retrograde is when you need to go backwards. So I figure it's kind of like when your car is in reverse and you like maybe didn't see the sign that you needed to see, or maybe you forgot something you needed to bring with you. So the retrograde allows for you to go back, and gather that, which is the message from Mercury, you know, and for Venus, which is our connection, like the morning star, the evening star is like very close to the sun, Mercury, Venus, Earth. So it's like, you know, both these two planets are both going backwards to be able to say, wait a minute, you know, something's off here, and we need to do a course direction realignment, you know. And so I feel like right now we're in this place with, you know, not only this, like you mentioned, the lunar eclipse, and then there'll be a full solar eclipse, and then there's this whole energy of going backwards as like the planets are going, you know, the eclipse is going, and then also equal day, equal night. So everything's like in this powerful position to re-correct the grids.
Yes.
And so I'm just like, you know, I see the turtle. I've been, you know, talking a lot about the turtle when I first meet you all on that prophecy gridwork course. I met you in there, and like I just kept seeing the turtle was on
On
its
its
back,
back.
right?
Yeah.
And then I could just keep seeing us, like, you know, it's been inverted. It's now a death cult, you know, LIVE is now EVIL. So, and then it's like course correction. And then we, you know, I mean, even seen it where turtles will come and they'll push their brother or their sister back up onto its correct, you know, posture. And I even seen before I hop on here, this turtle is all stuck in this net, and these beautiful men all gathered it and took off the crappy net and set it free, you know. And I was just like, that's so symbolic. That's so what we're doing. We're literally setting free and correcting our timelines and our Earth Mother. So I really wanted to just bring medicine that this is a time, you know, as you do new moon in Aries, it's like this first, you know, zodiac sign of the wheel. So it's that first, like, you know, it's like a new moon plant for the full lunar cycle, whereas this one plant for the whole solar cycle of the whole wheel of this whole solar, you know, year. So we are in a prime position to really set the intention to gather back our power, to come into this present alignment, and then move forward into New Earth. And like, you know, Shekinah Grace says, you know, just don't go backwards with it, you know, like keep going forward, keep moving forward. Don't go back to your enslaver. Don't go back to the place of bondage and, you know, sickness and all the things that cause suffering. Bring yourself into healing and then move forward. Advance or recede. Do not hesitate. Yeah. So
I
that's
love that. Very powerful. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, something that I saw too, almost like a call for anyone watching, if you feel like you are like a guardian earth, you know, protector, or, you know, just a grid worker, or taking a stand, you know, for like the organic connection with earth and all our relations. It's like I saw, you know, everyone who resonates to get their medicine wheel, build their medicine wheels and build their like stone circles and start doing the daily communion. Shekinah Ma and I've talked about that a little bit. Start connecting with all the sacred directions and, you know, the elements. And in the Essene tradition, they're, you know, called angels. It's like the angel of air, the angel of earth, the angel of fire. I don't know if that's one of the on the Essene tree of life, but however you connect, like, and commune and be so intimately connected with that process of building your medicine wheel or your, you know, your stone circle. And I just see all of it, like, it's like activating for the grids, and it also activates and awakens the nature devas, or the spirits that want to co-create with us. So even if you don't have land, but you have a front or backyard, like I just, that's what I saw. So I just wanted to share that too.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I totally agree. And just, you know, going back to all the things that we are facing, right, from all sort of every side we turn, you know, it's like the the chemtrails or the 5G or whatever it is, right? We are being poisoned from all angles, right? And so the best thing for us to do right now is to detox from all of these, heavy metals and, basically just clean our body as well, just by taking in the light and sound healing that we have, go for walks in nature, juicing, getting any kind of healing that you can, you know, playing with your animals like you do, Shakina Ma. You have animals, and it's like do all of these things, like listen to good music, do yoga, meditation, all of these things, just embrace yourself within these these energy frequency healing energies, if you will, because it's so important for us to be able to cleanse from within so that we're able to fight off all of these poisons, if you will, that are being imposed on us. So I think that's really important at this time as well. And like you said, Shakina Ma, for us to move forward, we need to move forward in that healthy sort of mentality, in that organic way, as we move forward into these new earth energies, if you will, that we're birthing on all levels right now.
Yeah, it's like I just heard the question. It's like, I think one way we can get really like diligent is anything we start to engage with, to ask the question, do I want to bring this forward into the new earth? And if it's a no, then cut, like stop right there and shift the frequency of your thought, and use the power of your mind and your oracle, like your voice, to come to speak into the field exactly the blueprint that you want to experience on earth. So, and then also singing over your body, coming back to the water element, it's like the body, we're a body of water, and we know through Emoto's work, I talk about this a lot, and all of us I know are aware of this, but it doesn't hurt as a reminder for people. Like, we speak over water, and it's like a record keeper, it records everything. So if we're not actively engaging our throat chakra and using it as it's meant to be used, as like a channel of divine, of the divine mind, when we align our thoughts with the thoughts of creator, what we speak, we create. And so to bless our water, we know from his work that, if you speak love into a petri dish of water, it forms this beautiful crystal. If you speak hatred into it, it forms like a disformed, geometry. And so something that I love doing now is just singing over my own body of water, like a water blessing over this vessel, and changing my own frequency just through the power of my own harmonic, my own voice, my own soul song, my own resonance. Because this gave us, we were given the resonance and frequency of our own voice as our own medicine. Like everything, we have our own medicine encoded within us. So singing over your body, it's just, I just love that. I just see all, in my mind, it's like everyone was just praying and out loud and singing over their bodies of water, like how different, our experience would be of ourselves, how much more in self-love we would be, which means if you're fully embodying love, that unconditional divine love and compassion for yourself, it's like, there's no question if that translates into your relationships and how you connect with the earth as well. So I don't know why I wanted to share that piece, but it felt like we were talking about the self-care and like the becoming a frequency match to that which we wish to see in the world. So that's one good way that I practice in my life.
Absolutely. No, I totally agree with that, because, we are, as part of this mission, we are sort of bringing forth those new earth frequency energies, right? And so once those new earth cities, if you will, germinate within our field, then none of those things will resonate anymore, right? So you're right in saying that, whatever doesn't, match with that higher energy frequency, just leave it behind, right? I think that's such good advice moving forward.
I'm seeing something coming up which is really illuminating me. within the Mayan calendar, when they say 2012 was the end of the Mayan calendar, I'm seeing like how Mayan is Maya and Maya is the illusion. And if there's this correlating connection between the end of illusion and then this real, like we're in that timeline of transition as we're coming out of illusion and now coming into this divine awakening of truth, which is turtle medicine, is truth in the Anishinaabe teachings of the seven sacred teachings. And so I'm seeing like just this super beautiful, you know, a lot of people don't have a lot of money these days, especially for all the supplements and all the healing power, you know, treatments, etc., etc. But everybody has a free will. It's free and it's your will. It's a free will. So in like Neo in the Matrix, when there is no spoon. Okay, so what if we are seeing all this illusion of carnage and all this illusion of, you know, fighting over the earth and all that which is going on, and the agents are coming after us, and oh my God, you know, what if we just really were like, there is no spoon? And then we begin to see the truth, and the truth is able to be restored, and everything else just dissolves. And then the golden age of the golden cities and this golden blood, which I was doing more research on, which is neither positive nor negative. It's got no pathogens, it's got no antigens. So you're like literally never sick, right? So you can throw whatever you want at us and we're gonna be immune. Okay, so that's what we need to be tapping into, tuning into, and embodying, as it's already innately and inherently in us, right? So that's why I really like doing tapping a lot, you know, even though I see the world is falling apart and it's an utter shit show and there's just nothing but corruption and contamination, pollutions, and all of that. I am powerful. I am all transcending. I am the divine alchemist, and I dispel you. Reverse your curse and dispel your spells. 0 point upon thee. And then it is done. All the cards come falling down.
Yeah, that's very powerful. I love it.
Yeah.
I really do. And I think that's where the power comes from, right? It's individuals taking that initiative themselves and taking back that sovereign power for themselves and saying no more, right?
Mhm,
But,
mhm.
you know, I have to play the devil's advocate, if you will, here, because we are so brainwashed, if you will, into this mindset of we are, you know, we can't do this, we can't do that. And me personally, coming from that background, I know how hard it is to break away from those chains, right? So it is hard to do on an energetic or a physical or, you know, a day-to-day level. So it does take some practice. It does take peace in your mind, in your heart, to be able to overcome all of these things. So yeah, your words are powerful, and so it truly matters in this day and time when we need to find voices such as yours, Shekina Matu and Shekina Grace as well, to powerfully speak to that energy that's within the heart of each and every one of us, which is the divine spark, right? And so we have to connect to that light and connect back to the divine energy, to that divine Mother, Father, God, as you guys know, to bring forth that strength in order for us to take that step forward and
Well,
to
and the
be those
beauty is
divine
like
beings.
in the book, like Power versus Force, you will see that, you know, all the negative energy of bondage and fear and sickness and death, you know, that's very low on the level of consciousness in the map of consciousness,
Yeah,
right? So we have 0 to say 1,000, you know, and you're moving up towards like the vibrational scale, you know, like
yeah,
hertz vibration or even chakra scale, color scale, whatever you want to look at it is. But see, if you have like square root of 1% of any population holding the light, holding the positive vibrations, it actually like hundreds of thousands of people are cleared through that just square root of 1%. So I know they do this in heart math You know, I know they do this in a lot of these studies being done, like Gary Schwartz, and Greg Braden talks about this a lot. And you got Bruce Lipton talking about. I met all these people; they're all great, fantastic people. The placebo effect. It's like So my point is like, it might be very hard for people who are so stuck in mind control. MK Ultra is a very real thing. That's why in like Toronto, they got the Masonic Lodge, was the original headquarters of MTV, music television. So, you got like the Gagas of the world, all doing these satanic rituals on these musical videos with a hertz vibration that is putting you in mind control. And then now all of a sudden you got all these people, that are emulating these, fallen stars, right? So anyhow, I still believe, and I know with all my heart, that even if there's just enough of us, really holding like the beacon, like a crystal that's just been programmed to hold this program, and it's just now we are scrubbing. We are scrubbing. So this is good to know. The Ho'oponopono, they had a doctor of psychology in a hospital, and he was curing all his patients without doing a damn thing. All he was doing was Ho'oponopono, Ho'oponopono, and people were getting healed. So that's just, don't get in the devil's advocate, because if you've ever seen the movie, it's a effed up movie.
I know.
And I'd like to say that the devil's favorite sin is vanity, because people who are vain and narcissistic will never see beyond themselves. And they'll stay inverted. The M down is me, and then you flip it back up where it belongs. It's a W, it's a we. Not about us, without us. So I just, I know it's going to be all right. Just stay with the angels.
I love it. I love it. I love it. It's interesting you said MTV. I just want to bring this snippet in because I've been noticing that quite often. It's being filtered now to Netflix. The MTV symbolism. Like a lot of those shows are coming from MTV. So I wonder if there's some. I'm very sure there's programming on Netflix, but I wonder if they're going back to their roots of that MTV programming.
Well, you know that what's his face, Barack Obama took on Netflix, so it's a complete fallen matrix now, for sure.
I didn't know
honestly, like media is like, in the Greek mythology, Medea is the goddess like of illusion, or like an enchantress, just like Hollywood is like used by the druids to cast spells, like glamour. The art of glamour. So I just like, it's set up to play with you.
Absolutely,
100%.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I just wanted to bring up one little tidbit as well. I don't know if you guys have seen my book that I published a while back. All that is Progressing to the Fifth Dimension. This one was a transmission from three beings, interdimensional beings who call themselves the Collective of Three. And there's one of them that is from the Pleiades. And so this being worked quite extensively with the frequency of music. And so when we were writing the book, there's a pretty good chunk of it that's dedicated to how the frequency fences were brought about to the Earth system by the Draco, right? And that, inverted all of the energies of the Earth plane to bring it down to the vibration of the Draco energies, right? For them to survive. And so after World War II, they switched it, they tweaked it even further. And the music industry that was playing their musical instruments and everything was tuned to the earth resonance of 432 hertz was tweaked in a way that it was now made, as what do you call it? Like a rule, if you will, across the board to 440 hertz. And so we, in a way, are listening to that distorted musical energy, if you will, from, whatever music is going through the channels, if you will, of, the registration of, recording companies or institutions or whatever. So when you think about it, and going back to what Shekinah Grace said, we are all beings of water, right? And so when we absorb that energy into our being, we are receiving that distorted frequency, if you will.
I used to tell like hair salons, like in my 20s, I would tell hair salons and restaurants to change like what they play on the radio.
Yeah.
For that reason, like sitting in the hair salon and listening to just the radio stations, like it was so jarring and discordant for me. I actually stopped going to hair salons and restaurants, large in part because of the music that's always playing on the radio stations.
Yeah.
So if you're sensitive, you can really feel the distorted frequencies. It's very disorienting, and it's, they play them everywhere, like in almost all public service venues,
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
it's good to bring that up as an awareness. But I also feel like people are turning on to the idea of frequency medicine and healing and sound healing and vocal toning and om chanting and all of that, as a very powerful medicine. And reclaiming those harmonics,
Yeah,
true
absolutely.
harmonics.
I think I have a feeling like, we have this dual role, if you will, right? Of shining a light on the darkness, but at the same time, bringing in that healing energy as well. And, like you said, Shakina Ma, just, bringing in that scrubbing, if you will, right from the foundational level. But we need to also bring awareness to those that are trying to figure out why is this happening and why are we scrubbing the flow, right? We need to let them know that this is happening for a reason, right? The blinders have been down for too long, and we need to awaken to all of this garbage that's been happening on so many levels.
Mhm. Mhm.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Shakina.
It's just kind of like you see how right now they've just, come out with the cure of cancer, which is, we've known cancer is a parasite. I've known that for a long time. Cancer is a parasite. And depending on what parasite you have is what kind of cancer you have. And I have a friend who battled cancer for a long time and did, chemo and all the things. And then he just found out this one product, which he took, cured his cancer immediately. And then his friend who had the same cancer, instead of doing all the radiation and all the poison, toxic abuse, violation, torture of the body, just took the product, done, gone, cancer's gone. So that's a symbolical metaphor of the planet right now. Like she's being taken over by this cancerous parasitic force. But just like in our timeline, how we're seeing, but there's this cancer cure, like right as it's coming out now. So like to read the timelines as a pattern analysis, I would say that like we're seeing that we're just at that place where it just goes cured.
Yeah.
It makes me think of like Christ consciousness is entering the realm of instantaneous healing and miracles. So, what does that really mean? And that's what I mean about like unshakable faith, trust, and knowing and confidence in who you are as a divine angelic on the planet. That's just what that makes me consider. And even as a healer, like I'm really working on my consciousness to align with that, because if I doubt that healing happened in my healing session, it's like I've been really studying and witnessing my own process, my own mind. And when I doubt the thing, and versus when I don't doubt that healing took place, like miracles literally are reported back to me, like things shift in the real time, and so even for healers, like how much are you embodying that Christ consciousness, that Yeshua had? And we know that it's popular right now. I'm seeing a lot of people aligning with that phrase of, it's like he said that we'll do, you'll do what I do and more. I forget the exact biblical verse, but that's what that makes me feel and think of, about the instantaneous like shift or healing that takes place, and not doubting or question, like that shadow of doubt, right? Like that the shadow. Anytime we enter doubt, it's the shadow. So yeah, it's exciting to me. I'm so excited about this time that we're in.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it too.
Yeah.
To me, I see it like, pillars of light. Like each one of us are like pillars of light that are being anchored in the earth, and we are like direct transmitters, if you will, of this higher light coming in all the time. And so the more of us that are, aligning to these higher energies, which is like the crystals energies that you guys that we were just talking about, the higher vibration of that energy that's coming in, the quicker we can heal, the quicker we can, do whatever the work that we are doing, right? To flip this whole thing on its head and, turn the turtle back on its, right side up, if you will, right? So there's so many good things coming from this. So yeah, I'm excited too for all of this to come to fruition.
Mm.
So, ladies, was there anything else we needed to talk about? I think we did a really good job of bringing in that higher vibrational energy.
Mm.
One thing that I will share in the lines of like this unity, union, divine union, and even the heart, like we're getting into the heart chakra, through our conversation, I've seen us move, kind of up. And you shared a lot about the legislation building in Manitoba, and I only learned through Shekinah Ma that the heart exists in Manitoba of the turtle. And so I've been reflecting and meditating on that a little bit, and I just saw like all nations gathering in that building and bringing their ancestral songs and singing them in that building, as like a boots on the ground grid work mission, but literally just through light language, through toning, through oming, and through singing the ancestral, people bringing their ancestral songs and gathering in circle where all of that, like the geometry or the architecture supports the amplification of the sound, is what I learned about that building through the videos that you shared. So I think that would be an incredible, just a seed of light to plant on this day, to see nations like gather and sing their ancestral songs in that building, to really activate the heart of the Americas and of Turtle Island.
Wow, that's a beautiful thought. That's
Mm.
amazing. Yeah, that's actually a great thought, because in a way that's sort of a pyramidal building, isn't it? It's got all of that resonance and that frequency, right? It's like it's directly connected to the higher vibrational
And
energies.
that
But
area is called Forks, which is kind of interesting too, like
mhm,
tuning forks. So
Ooh, yeah.
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 yeah, yeah.
And as Shekinah Ma was Shekinah Grace, I was talking, I pulled this card, which is the 8 in the tarot deck. And in my Mermaidian throw, it's the whale, which is the record keeper and the basic life giver of the earth. And it's been trapped, right, in this net and in this bondage. And we see that it's being set free. And so 8 is that magnetic force of magnetism and power and true power, not force. Like that's the thing with all these people, is that they're forced. Colonization is a forced occupation. So power is true power. That's the Christos, that's the Christ. So we see true power breaking through all this illusion and bondage, and we're freed. The truth shall set us free. So as she said that, I was pulling a card, and that's the card that come.
Yeah, awesome. I think that's a great note to end this show on.
Mm.
But yeah, I totally agree with that, Shekinah Grace. That's a great building to bring that heart-centered energy into the collective.
And
It
until that happens, like in person, or like when I started tuning into that, my hands got hot with like Reiki fire, like just you like sending that heart, your hands are connected to your heart chakra,
mhm.
like getting real centered in your heart chakra, and just like almost like those things that get the heart, in the hospitals, like that, like shock it alive, again, kind of like that energy.
Yeah.
And and also, you know, crystal infusions, like crystal frequency, you know, like rose quartz or clear quartz or whatever you feel called it, like, you know, that's sort of what I know. There's, or even singing into, you know, the heart of the turtle as well as singing into it. And I feel like that could ripple out in waves, you know, sonar waves of the whale, you know, sophionic light language or light speak, out from the heart.
Yeah, totally. Is that area allowed, like, are the people, like the public, allowed to go into that inner sanctum, if you will?
Mhm.
Yeah? Okay. Well, maybe we need to figure out somebody that can sort of get there on the day of the Gridwork mission and anchor that energy for us. I don't know anybody in that part of Canada, but maybe you guys can send your feelers out and see if we could get somebody to actually be there and just offer up a, like a sound healing at that location.
My good friend Giselle is from there. She was a lady born in the hospital, which marks the kind of X marks the spot. I can ask her because she has family and friends there. And so I will put out a request because she's also a sacred dancer and has a lot of good connections. So I'll see if she can position someone there.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Be really interesting to contact Mary Simons, who is the Governor General of Canada, and be able to initiate, see if she would be willing to put that together in the efforts of truth and reconciliation. And so, since I am in a truth and reconciliation circle, I can initiate that through a proper protocol and just see what she does with that.
I love that. Yeah.
That'd be
For
trippy,
this
eh?
mission?
No, just for
Oh,
truth.
in general? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that would be good. Yeah. No, we definitely have to get these beings on our side, right? Like, and she's like the top office, if you will, for Canada, right? She's even higher than the prime minister's position. So,
Well,
yeah,
she
if we have,
allowed this pirogue. That's where a lot of people are very upset with her
yeah,
because she allowed this and she even allowed this Carney guy in. So
yeah,
that is where she is failing us.
yeah, yeah. I was a little concerned about that as well because, you don't get into that high position if you're not, in a way, how do I say this in the right way, but that you're not in alignment, shall we say, with the king, or the king of England, or the darkness in this case, right? It's like all of those energies. I heard she's married to somebody on that side, like that's how she got involved in all of this, right? She
Her
married.
father is a part of the Hudson Bay Company,
Oh
which
yeah, that's
really
right. Yeah,
like the owners,
yeah,
Rupert's Land is, there's a lot of discrepancy because a
yeah,
lot of, like, again, the hereditary chiefs are different than tribal chiefs.
yeah,
And so the hereditary chiefs and peoples of this land do not agree with that whole Rupert's Land deal.
yeah,
So that's the broken treaties. This
yeah,
is, this is where the UNDRIP is, the United Nations trying to use the native people to land back. Now, if they did this through the actual people, not the United Nations, I'd be 100% for it. But
yeah.
because the UN has its dirty hands in on that, I think it's quite a it's kind of like one of those, snares that they're
Yeah,
so good
yeah,
at,
yeah. You're not really
basically.
sure where that's heading,
No,
right? Yeah.
no.
Yeah, when I heard about the UN being, had its hands all over this, I was also a little concerned about that. And then, the Governor General, yeah, she doesn't come across to me as being completely on the side of the light or with the indigenous people as well. So it seems there's some sort of conflict there for me. So yeah, we'll have to figure out and see where this goes. But yeah, make your contacts and see where this goes in terms of, just a general sort of healing, if you will.
Mm.
Um,
Lifting the, like, betrayal frequency.
yeah.
Yeah, that word feels important to clear.
Mm.
All right, ladies, I think we should bring this to a close, but I just want to encourage everybody to sign up if you feel called to go on this Gridwork mission with us. I'll have the details in the description. It's being hosted by Indigo Angel, and the three of us will definitely be participating in that grid mission. But yeah, if you feel called to join us, I'd really appreciate it if you can sign up, come and take part in this great adventure with us of healing the land, healing the people, and bringing back those original Christ energies to the land. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you to my two guests, Shekina Ma and Shekina Grace, for being here with us. Namaste, everybody.
Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you.